Hello, everyone. Welcome to Viking Video Chats. I'm pleased to be joined by Vishe Rabb, soon-to-be junior women's basketball player. I'm Athletic Director Josh Morton, and yes, this is my first Viking Video Chat from my office. I'm back.
Yeah.
Vishe, it feels good to be back in the Elman Center. And I know we look forward to getting you back here in August, but it has been nice being back at work.
Yeah, no, to get back in the swing of things for sure.
And I noticed, so I did bring a few things from my office home to have on my mantle, so I could at least look very Augustana official. So now I brought them back to my office. So I didn't want to leave. I kind of wanted to leave them at home, but I figured, gosh, that softball national championship mini trophy and the football helmet, they look good in my office too. And then, then I'll put your team in charge of getting some other assigned ball, winning the conference championship or something.
Right? Yeah, gotta save a spot for us.
I will absolutely save a spot for it. So I mentioned, our athletes, we opened up our facilities, kind of a phased reopening June 1st for locals, and then fall sports, and then we're now into anybody who wants to come back. And I know you were planning on being in Sioux Falls this summer with a job and everything, but then of course the pandemic hit and your plans changed.
Yeah, very abruptly. So, but.
And I think the last time our fans would have seen you, you would have been on the bench in street clothes. You had a knee injury very early on. I think the first question I always ask you when we talk is, how's your knee?
Yeah, it's doing really good. Getting back to like the normal type of workouts and like the normal, feeling is kind of, what I've been trying to get to. So, we are not to the clearing, level yet, but it definitely feels good to be able to like run and like shoot baskets and, kind of normal, daily stuff. So.
Because I think the hardest part of rehab is probably that middle ground, right? Because you probably make some progress and then you really want to be doing something. So you maybe feel like you're getting there.
Yeah. It's like finding this weird like balance between like improving, but like not, pushing it too hard to, where you're ending up doing too much that, you're not getting any better. So, like I said, finding a good balance is kind of hard, but.
Yeah, and I know one of the challenges for us too, not only bringing our athletes back that are in town, but for those of you who aren't here, is you want to be careful of injury, because there was a time, and I know almost all of you did something physically because you're athletes, that's what you do, but it wasn't as intense. And so to just be careful, I know Coach Chambers done a really good job about setting up our programs that eased people back into it, because the bottom line is we don't want anybody to get injured, and so we want to be as safe as possible too. And I look forward to seeing, I know I've seen a few of your teammates here, so that's been nice.
Yeah, they're still grinding it out, so that's good. So they can still, get in there and, can't keep the routine, so that's good.
Yep, exactly. And give me a sense of what the semester was like as a student, trying to learn online, distance learning. Part of what makes Augustana so special is the one-on-one interaction in the small community. What was it like trying to do it from home?
It was really weird getting, kind of acclimated to how, you wanted to go and approach your classes, like knowing that you kind of had to, teach yourself a little bit more than you would have had you had that more one-on-one interaction, in a classroom. So it was a little difficult at first. I'm very glad that the semester is done. Just mentally, it was nice to have like a little break from, thinking too hard. So.
And as you know, and I think our A Club members know, we announced the Viking Flex plan, which moved up the start date for academic classes to be on campus August 26th. And with the idea of moving it up, there'll be no fall break, and classes in person will end at Thanksgiving. Our athletes, of course, will still be here. But just figuring that was the best mode, and it provides some flexibility too, because the most important thing is getting all of you back and doing whatever we can health and safety wise to do that. What are your thoughts on coming back and being in a college environment?
I think it's going to be really interesting to see like how we all kind of get readjusted, because obviously this is like a very new thing and we've never had to do something like this. So you take academics and you take, athletics, and you're going to have to try to like kind of balance them in a different way than we were before. But none of us really know what that means. It's just we know it will be different. That's pretty much, what we're working with. So I think it'll be interesting for sure.
Yeah, and I appreciate the athletics mindset is always being flexible, right? It's
Yeah.
you're kind of forced because you have a lot on your plate. No, and we look forward to that. The end of August, getting everybody moved back in, and then that start of classes on the 26th. And I commend you, Vishe, because a few weeks ago, this was the week after George Floyd's death in Minneapolis, and there was a lot of protests going on across the country. And sitting there that weekend, and I know that you had reached out and wondered what your athletic department was thinking about everything. Can you just share your thoughts going back to those 3 weeks ago?
I really wanted to make sure that Augustana was kind of acknowledging kind of the issues that had come up, and it was really important to me to know that, that our athletic department was kind of taking into account that we do have, people of color and, have their voices be heard and understood, so kind of to integrate that into feeling welcomed and always supported is, very important. So I think that was kind of the main reason I wanted to reach out,
Yeah, no, and I appreciate both your maturity and your thoughtfulness in doing so, and in subsequent conversations that you and I have had. This is a heavy time for Americans, but especially Americans of color, and being a woman of color on a college campus. How are you doing? Here we are toward the end of June. How are you feeling?
I think it has been a little mentally draining for sure. It's one of those things where you have to, use your voice and, making sure that you're doing stuff also in private, like you're signing petitions and, you're showing up to, kind of support other people of color, because you're kind of all in the same boat about things that you've experienced and things that you're dealing with. And I think it was a week and a half ago, I went to a protest. So it was really, really cool to see, how many people were there and how many people were using their voice in the same way that I wanted to spread the message. And it was just overall, it was a really good experience. And I think more people should do that. So.
And had you ever been to a protest before?
I had not. No, it was one of those things where you kind of had been seeing what the media was showing, which was, a lot of violence and all of this stuff. And they weren't really covering a lot of peaceful protests. And the one that we went to was completely peaceful. There was no, aggressive anything. It was very nice and well organized. So, I wish the media would sometimes show more of that. And, because that is what's happening still. So.
Yeah, and one thing I remember that same weekend that you reached out, I know I spent a lot of time watching TV and just feeling sad for our country and where we were at, but then trying to think of, okay, as a leader in athletics, what's my role? And then what's our role as an athletics department? And I think, it starts with listening. It starts with a lot of learning, as a white male athletic director and talking to some of our athletes of color too and their experiences on our campus. It's what can we do to help? I think one of the things that I think is unique to Augustana is that our athletes of color, our students of color can just help lead the way. And that's, I look forward to not only talking and listening, but actually moving into action, because I think your generation can help us get there.
No, I completely agree, especially with, being at Augustana, it's really important for allyship right now through every part of the department, through the different teams, and kind of just showing that support, on and off the court, So not only, supporting my jump shot, but also supporting, what I'm thinking and doing off the court as well.
Yeah, and I think we're fortunate, our head volleyball coach, Jen Jacobs, she was actually on a Viking Video Chat a couple months ago, is trained in IDI. She has extensive background in doing staff training. We're actually going through our first, what we look at as a year long of courageous conversations, just as a staff. to start to have these conversations. And so she's leading it, and we're very fortunate to have her because she's really good at it and she's passionate about it. And as a woman of color herself, she just brings a great perspective to our department. And so that's where I look forward to our athletes also helping to lead the way.
No, for sure. Yeah.
The other thing, you are you want to get into sports, and we all had a unique opportunity last fall to hear from Theresa Rush, former volleyball player. Now she's the vice president of the world champion Toronto Raptors. She came and talked to our student athletes. It was really neat. She brought the Larry O'Brien trophy, but you stuck around and made sure you had a few minutes alone.
Yeah.
What was that like for you to see a former student athlete who was once in your shoes now in her role?
I honestly was a little bit starstruck, and it was very interesting just knowing, I found out that she actually had a very similar background growing up from a small town, then coming to Augustana doing sports, and, she kind of had a very, determined and like very direct kind of work ethic. And I really, really just enjoyed talking with her about, what she was about, and that it really inspired me to, try to kind of follow in her footsteps a little bit, into the sports world and industry. So.
And what would you ultimately like to do?
I honestly would love to have her same title of being director of operations. I think she has had so many amazing opportunities, and it sounds like she's had all these connections, and it just sounds like something that I would want to be a part of for sure.
Yeah. No, she was impressive. We're lucky to have her, and have leaned on her for a few other things throughout the year as well, with questions on dealing with a lot of different things that we may be at a different level, but at the end of the day, it's still athletics, and things that they may deal with at the NBA level, we tend to deal with too. Sports can be such a great way to bring people together. But it's not automatic, right? You still have to work at it. And how do you see, in college athletics, how can we be part of the change when we talk about racial inequality and social justice?
I think it, like kind of stated before, it really falls back on being able to listen and learn. So when we're trying to figure out, where can we kind of get this more integrated? Where can we figure out, how to make people of color feel more, in tune with the entire system? And I think that really just falls back on, kind of analyzing yourself, even if, you don't necessarily feel like things may be racist, or there's not something that maybe is as fair, maybe to just question it from a different perspective, because it's not always malicious, and sometimes that's the issue, just kind of checking yourself a little bit, to evaluate yourself more so.
Yeah, perspective can provide a lot. I agree with that. I think for those who don't know, Augustana approved a diversity, equity, and inclusion plan as part of our overall strategic plan in 2019. And so it's a document that's on augie.edu. Would encourage anybody to go read it, because it does lay out, it's a roadmap for us to continue to build diversity, equity, and inclusion on our campus. And you can find it at augie.edu. But Vishe, thanks a lot. I really do appreciate your thoughtfulness, and look forward to you helping us lead the way as a department.
Yeah, thanks for having me.